mutilation, torture, murder, genocide, mechanics of death, all through the sky.
Yes, there we go, ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages. It is that time once again. It is 6 p.m. Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. And you are locked into Mild's Culture Plate right here on Rumble, YouTube, and Twitter. Welcome, everybody. So today we're going to mostly follow up on the New Mexico gun story. There are lots and lots of developments in that story. We're going to be talking about banning books. We're going to be talking about 9/11. As always, welcome to the channel. Please, if you can, on your way in, click that like button, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble, or even Twitter, click that like button. That's definitely going to help the visibility of this stream and this show going forward. Going to be pouring some Buffalo Trace for the show tonight. So if you come in on YouTube or Rumble, please say hello in the chat. If you say hello or you send a good little message, I'll give you a toast. So anyone that happens to be watching, cheers out there. Good having you in here. And let me start off. Let me start off by talking about 9/11 for just a minute. What was it, 22 years ago? This very week, our nation was attacked. Now, this channel, we talk about media narratives, we talk about false narratives, we get into the conspiratorial, and I'm going to tell you flat out, I don't believe the official story. And you know what? Let's go ahead and bring up a good video. By the way, cheers to Mike Likes Tacos in the chat. Good seeing you. Let me go ahead and actually bring up an interesting video about 9/11. Just need to grab it real quick. I told myself I was going to do this, and then as I was doing my show prep, I completely forgot. So now I've got to scroll. Here we go. Okay, now let's try that. And nope, don't want that one. Sorry. Let's try that. What happened to my other one? Oh, there we go. Okay, now let's try this one. So here's a short clip from James Corbett of the Corbett Report that pretty much is going to tell you what I think of the whole narrative surrounding September 11th.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon in the budget analyst office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish.
These were all
It was
quotes.
based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
Failure of imagination.
because
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping.
Routine.
NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her, and her, and her, and him.
Heroes.
Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about...
His head could be seen to move violently forward.
And...
They took the babies out of the incubators.
And...
Mobile production facilities.
And...
The rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story.
Asking questions is un-American.
Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
Okay. So there we have it. There we have 9/11 broken down in easy to understand terms. And if you think otherwise, you are a conspiracy nut job. Okay. Now, let's get into banning books, shall we? The Secretary of State of Illinois testified in front of our lovely Senate the other day, and interestingly enough, kind of coaxed Senator Kennedy into saying these interesting things here.
Us to do. Let's take
two books that have been much discussed.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about books and book bannings, right? So there have been a lot of accusations that conservatives want to ban books, that conservatives just don't want children to be able to read or be educated. And it's just these damn conservatives that want to ban books, right?
The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. It's getting spicy up in the Senate chambers, folks. It's getting spicy. Let's hear what else he's got to say.
And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated.
All right.
He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me.
Okay, so it sounds like Senator Kennedy isn't reading from the book. It sounds like he's describing Nick Rekieta's locals chat, but I digress. Let's hear what else he has to say.
He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain.
He must have been well hung.
Close quote. All boys aren't blue. The second is another much discussed book.
No, All Boys Aren't Blue. Some of them are apparently really well hung black men.
I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer.
Oh, the genderqueer. We've covered that on this show before.
Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote.
All right, Senator Kennedy. Awesome, awesome.
Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this.
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, and the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? They're disturbing for a grown man on the Senate floor to speak, but they're okay in the classroom.
But what I would also tell you that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's
point. What are you advocating?
Okay, but you're advocating against stopping them from reading porn. So, like, I mean, this is fucking weasel words, right? Please tell me if I'm wrong. This is fucking weasel words. Well, we're just asking you to stop banning it. We're not saying kids should read it, even though the places you're banning it are places where kids read in elementary school, middle school, and high school libraries. You know, this isn't your Uncle Charlie's, you know, pervert library, you know, down the smut factory, right? You know, this isn't an adult or even a community library. These are school libraries where people want to ban this stuff. But we're not advocating kids read this stuff. We just want you to stop banning it from elementary schools. It's fucking weasel words.
Advocating for.
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting.
No, fuck you. Yes, random parents do get to decide their children's worldview on these matters. That's why they are children. You absolute fucking groomer. And yeah, I said it, and I said it on YouTube. If you want to influence someone else's children's worldview on these topics, that's the definition of the word. Oh man, I just clicked. Instead of clicking play, I clicked the damn progress
Suggesting
bar.
that only librarians. I just read.
No.
Okay. You're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, it's disturbing. But what I would also tell you that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's
point.
What
are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe.
Random parents. What the fuck is a random parent? If a child, any child, is picking up a pornographic book, their parent is their parent. It's not some random parent coming and saying, hey, what's going on here? It's their parent. It's the direct relative of the child who has picked the pornography up at their school. That is the parent. I don't know what you mean by random parent. You're trying to downplay the importance of a parent in a child's life when you say random parent. There's no such thing.
To try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting conceptual game.
I'm not getting conceptual.
Well,
I'm saying
you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what.
Okay, that's the end of that clip. There, it goes on a little bit longer, but we won't get into that as much. But this goes to show you. Now, I had a little debate down in the comment section of that video with people who were obviously left-wing, borderline communist fucking trolls that were like, well, you know, who's showing kids porn? And I was like, well, literally the guy right here, this guy, this Secretary of State of Illinois, and let me bring up his name because I forgot it. And it's not even a Secretary of Education. It's the Secretary of State, Alexei Giannoulias. Alexei Giannoulias is the Secretary of State of Illinois. Is coming to our U.S. Congress to talk about books in schools. This is crazy. It's not even an education secretary. He's not even talking about actual education in the state of Illinois. He's talking about, well, can you conservatives just stop banning things so that kids can read porn? But we don't want them to read porn, but we don't want them not to be able to either. Anyway, these damn groomers. So I haven't done the weird, the transgender weirdness of the week, or the was it gender crazy of the week. I haven't done that the last few weeks. I'm gonna have to make sure this Saturday I have something. Well, no, I can't do that because This Saturday, I'm probably going to be streaming on YouTube because I'm going to be in Nashville outside the Ricada event during my stream. Anyway, let's move on because I want to get into this New Mexico stuff. We have a bunch of developments, and I'm going to try to cover as much of them as I can. First off, we have a press conference here, and I did it again. Here we go.
Not only on social media, but directly to my phone.
So real quick, before I get started, if you're not familiar, on my last show, I covered the governor of New Mexico issuing an emergency health order that nobody can carry a firearm in the city limits of any, I think it's city or county with a certain population, which is basically Albuquerque and the neighboring county. And this is after 2 children were struck by bullets in separate incidents, and I think both of them died. So she issued a public health emergency and demanded by executive order that by emergency nobody could carry firearms essentially in Albuquerque. And she gave some reasoning for doing so. She said that no constitutional right is absolute, including her own oath, speaking very tyrannical things. And she went on to say that, you know, what her end goal was not to necessarily get everyone to comply, but to get enough people to comply that the police could determine who the good guys and bad guys were, because the bad guys would still be walking around armed, which is an amazing admission of the failure of government in being able to do anything, including tyranny, in an efficient fashion. So anyway, now we're going to hear what the sheriff and I believe... No, not the district attorney. I'll have to bring up the district attorney quote here in a minute, but here's what the sheriff has to say about this executive emergency health emergency order.
And I'm holding this press conference and to answer many other people's questions, not only on social media, but directly to my phone. One, this is not grandstanding, nor is this to bring attention to myself. We must always remember, not only are we protecting the Second Amendment, but at the same time, we have a lot of violence within our community. Let me be clear. I hold my standards high, and I do not or never will hedge on what is right. And I take my oath seriously. In reference to concealed carry and open carry, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order.
All right.
While I understand the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundations of our Constitution, but most importantly, it is unconstitutional. My oath was to protect the Constitution, and that is what I will do. The governor made it clear in her press conference. She knew we as law enforcement did not agree with the order, and as a result, this was solely her decision. My job is to keep the peace and to make sure that the citizens of Bernalillo County are safe, and I do not believe that this order will help me do so. I'm a law enforcement professional. This order will not do anything to curb gun violence other than punish law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. I have a fact for you. Criminals do not follow the law or a public health order. Never seen it. We will never see criminals follow the law. Once again, this only punishes law-abiding citizens. The governor, to her credit, just gave us a head up minutes before the press conference. We expressed to her that we do not agree with it. That's why she did mention in the press conference that she knows we weren't on board, nor did we draft it. Is there a realistic way to enforce this order? No, there is not, because we'll cut that conversation off because it's unconstitutional. So there's no way we could enforce that order. What this means for Albuquerque is, I think the statement is, and everybody around the nation is going to want me to be very confrontational with the governor, and it's a me against
Real quick, like I think it was either today or yesterday, she actually doubled down. So in the face of all of this opposition, and let me start off by saying, oh Lord, I really should bring up these other clips. I have to kind of eat crow. I was wrong, not wrong, but just wrong in this minor detail. On my show Saturday, I had mentioned like the last thing we should do is go to an open carry rally, because I mean, while you have the right to do so and you should never fear exercising your rights, the opportunity for Fed ops, the opportunity for provocateurism, the opportunity that somebody who disagrees with the right to bear arms might show up and pop off a couple of rounds. I gave the warning that the opportunity for something to go wrong would be too great. However, there was an open carry protest Sunday afternoon in Albuquerque, and it went very peaceful. I mean, it just goes to show that even these weird Fed ops where things go wonky, they're kind of afraid to make them happen in a crowd like that. And that when you're armed, your rights are even more well protected. And real quick, there's a great joke in the chat. Mike Likes Tacos said, just tell her that Alec Baldwin is still filming and she'll rescind the order. Because, Alec Baldwin can, discharge a firearm in someone's face, and that's okay for New Mexico. Oh, so we got another 2 minutes on here. But yeah, she doubled down and said that the last thing she needs is a lecture on the Constitution. What she needs is children's lives to be saved, or something along those lines. Just more tyrannical bullcrap. She doubled down after everyone came out and told her what a mistake this is, including David Hogg. Even anti-gun congressmen and senators have come out and said, no, you can't just suspend the Constitution. No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And now here's one of the men, and I say one of because we're going to hear from a lot more here. One of the men who she would require to enforce this order, telling her flat out, no. And, we love the word no here on Mild's Culture Plate. We love the word no, because that's essentially what exercising your freedom, exercising your rights, exercising a separation of powers in the government, it's simply the word no, no, no.
Against her. It's not. We still work as a team. We don't agree on this at
Uh-oh. And of course.
all. This is unconstitutional. And like I said, I uphold my oath seriously. As far as meaning for Albuquerque specifically, I am putting everybody else, including every other politician and everybody else as a leader within a law enforcement entity, to jump on board and work as a team. I said this last week. There was an article, and I wish this gentleman would email me. He says the mayor, the sheriff, the AGs, the chief, they all have their own separate press conferences. I read all these editorials. What are they going to do together? And that's why in the press conference, when I was with the governor the other day, I said, we are all here. Bernalillo County is a problem. State of New Mexico is a problem with firearms. What do we do to stop the infiltration that are being used for violence and firearms? What can it do for Albuquerque? Show that there's a collaborative effort to stop the gun violence. That's all that we can do.
Well,
like I said, there's not a magic wand. There's not one solution. There's a myriad of solutions, and I can't be the only one coming up with them. That's why we have to work together as a team. No, I have not.
So in my research, this sheriff had also worked with the AG, who I'm going to mention here in a few minutes, or the DA rather, excuse me, the DA. This sheriff had also worked with the DA to get basically the local policy on shoplifting strengthened. So, I got to give props. At least he's trying to do something about the epidemic of crime and illegal gun violence.
But a lot of people ask me how I feel. I mean, shocked and irritated is all I had for the weekend. I have to turn in my irritation and my anger into solutions. That's something I have to look at very seriously with the oath that I took in January 1st of 2023. But on that anger, what do I do for the citizens and constituents of Bernalillo County that I serve? That's where my drive comes from. I will be speaking with her. We have a relationship where we've always been collaborative. Yes, this was a completely different avenue and a different road that was taken on Friday. That's something that we're going to have to figure out how to work to make sure.
Doesn't sound very collaborative,
but with all the other leads of law enforcement agencies on what we can do and help the constituents that we serve.
Okay, so that's the Bernalillo County Sheriff. And let's see what the New Mexico Attorney General had to say. This is from Firearms Policy Coalition on Twitter or X, sharing the image of this letter from Paul Torres, the Attorney General of New Mexico, to the Honorable Michelle Lujan Grisham, Governor of New Mexico. Governor Grisham, I am writing you to inform you my office will not defend your administration in the above referenced cases challenging the public health emergency order imposing temporary firearm restrictions, drug monitoring, and other public safety measures, the emergency order issued by the Secretary of Health on September 8th, 2023. Though I recognize my statutory obligation as New Mexico's chief legal officer to defend state officials when they are sued in their official capacity, my duty to uphold and defend the constitutional right of every citizen takes precedence. Simply put, I do not believe that the emergency order will have any meaningful impact on public safety, but more importantly, I do not believe it passes constitutional muster. As career prosecutor, I have grieved with too many victims of gun violence in New Mexico not to share your anger and frustration at the unacceptable toll that the violence is enacted, or he says gun violence is enacted. And I agree with Mike Likes Tacos in the chat. Guns don't just violence by themselves. Anyway, so back to here, especially among the youngest members of our community. The tragic deaths of 5-year-old Galileo Samaniego in a recent drive-by shooting and the 11-year-old Froilan Villegas in a road rage incident should serve as a wake-up call to everyone. However, I encourage you to engage in more thoughtful and deliberative process with members of New Mexico legislature rather than taking unilateral action that infringes on the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens while having little, if any, discernible impact on the underlying dynamics driving gun violence in our community. The emergency order prohibits the possession of a firearm for anyone other than law enforcement and security officers, except on private property owned by the person or with express consent of the owner on the premises of a firearms dealer or gunsmith. I'm going to kind of just skim to see if there's anything. While no one doubts the devastating impact that gun violence has had on our community over the last several years, it's not clear that the problem is properly defined as a public health emergency, as that term is used within the FERA. Moreover, even if the problem is properly categorized as a public health emergency, the data do not support the conclusion that gun violence in our community is attributable to otherwise law-abiding citizens exercising the constitutional right to carry firearms for protection outside the home. As the former county district attorney, I agree with your assessment that responsible gun owners are certainly not our problem and have never been our problem. Given that only responsible gun owners are likely to abide, much less recognize your ban, it is unclear how this action will lead to a measurable decline in violence in our community. Okay, let's see. I thought this was only 2 pages. It wound up being 4. He talks about the recent Supreme Court case Bruin, talks about Heller. My office cannot undertake a defense of the emergency order, though we will provide a limited commission for your administration to defend these actions in the above referenced cases. So he's going to give her part of his budget. But anyway, so he's talking about these court cases, and let me, where did it go? Oh man, I had it up. I don't know what I did with it. Anyway, I had a list of, it had them at the beginning of this, a list of so we have the National Association for Gun Rights versus Grisham, Blas versus Grisham, Donk versus Grisham, We the Patriots USA Incorporated et al. Versus Grisham et al. So there's 4 court cases going on right now about this this crazy executive order. And so we have news as of an hour ago. This one's on Fox News. New Mexico Democrat governor's sweeping order hits a major temporary roadblock. Actually, you know what? Before I get into that, so we just heard the Brunello County Sheriff, but there was a down here, Brunello District Attorney Sam Bregman, a Democrat Party leader who was appointed by Lujan Grisham, joined Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller and Police Chief Harold Medina, saying that they too would not enforce it. A gun rights group filed a federal lawsuit. Yeah, we just read that. Seeking an immediate court order to block the order from taking effect. And damn it, I missed it. Yeah. But anyway, he was quoted as saying, no, that basically, like everyone else is saying, that, the oath to the Constitution is more important. So a federal judge in Albuquerque, New Mexico, has issued a temporary restraining order blocking key parts of Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's executive order suspending open and concealed carry across Albuquerque and the surrounding Bernalillo County for at least 30 days. U.S. District Court Judge David Urias issued the order on Wednesday, blocking the portion of the order that prohibits lawful gun owners from carrying their guns in public for 30 days, ruling that it's not enforceable. Violation of a constitutional right, even for minimal periods of time, unquestionably constitutes irreparable injury, Urias said during the hearing. The temporary restraining order will remain in effect until at least October 3rd, when the next hearing is scheduled. Grisham announced on September 7th that she needed to respond to recent gun-related deaths, which include 11-year-old boy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so yeah. It doesn't list which case was used to block this. One moment, there's one more thing. There's one more thing I wanted to cover. Damn it. Okay, here we go. Share this tab. Okay. New Mexico State Representative Stefani Lord and John Block call for impeachment of Governor Grisham. New Mexico State Representative Stefani Lord, Republican District 22, and John Block, Republican District 51, are calling for the impeachment of New Mexico's Governor Michelle Grisham after Grisham's emergency order violates constitutional rights of New Mexicans. On Friday, Governor Grisham issued an executive order mandating the ban of all firearms, even concealed carry permit holders, to address rising crime in New Mexico's largest city, Albuquerque. This emergency order violates the governor's oath to protect and defend rights of New Mexicans and is illegal in nature. The legislature has a duty to intervene when the government is overstepping its boundaries, and Governor Grisham's order and comments disqualify her from continuing her tenure as governor. I am calling on council to begin the impeachment process against Governor Grisham, said Representative Lord. This is an abhorrent attempt at imposing a radical progressive agenda on an unwilling populace, rather than addressing crime at its core. Governor Grisham is restricting the rights of law-abiding gun owners. Even Grisham believes the emergency order won't prohibit criminals from carrying or using weapons, a basic admission that this will only put New Mexicans in danger as they won't be able to defend themselves from the violent crime. I have a news flash for the governor. The Second Amendment is an absolute right, and so is my authority to impeach you for violating your oath to New Mexico and the United States. Wow. So, how do you deal with tyrants? You get rid of them. You get rid of them. You throw them away. So we see literally everyone and their grandmother coming out against this blatant authoritarian seizing of power happening in the governor's office in New Mexico. We see her own Democrat DA, her own Democrat Attorney General saying no. We're seeing the sheriff, the mayor, the law enforcement saying no. And we see at least 2 Republicans in the New Mexico legislature say not just no, but no, and you can fuck right off. So here we go. Here we go. Wow. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, okay. So here's the video. Let me bring this up.
I've done 11.
Let's restart this video. There's 2.5 minutes here. So these are the citizens of Albuquerque.
Protect our families, our friends, our communities. I've gone on 2 combat tours with the Marine Corps.
Look at all the rifles slung. Our founding fathers warned us about you.
She has the right to take away my freedom and protect my community. I don't think so. This will not stand. We will not comply. Look what the U.S. government did to the Native Americans. They try to strip them of their rights. This is the same thing. Our Apache brothers resisted to the very end. Navajos, we got to be the same. Resilient.
Keep an eye on my stuff. I was trapping my 13 years and the law doesn't protect us. I'm an indigenous person. That's why my kid is here. The law doesn't protect us. And nobody, F the government. The government does not like indigenous people. We need to see the mother sterilizing our children, sterilizing our women, raping, thinking that is okay. Oh, that's a tell you that. No more! You're not going to step on my land doing that crap! No more taking our children to the system because our children are not for sale! No more!
Are you guys familiar with Thomas Jefferson? Say yes.
Were you protesting the Capitol during COVID?
What's that?
Were you protesting the Capitol during COVID?
Thomas Jefferson.
I wasn't at that one. No.
What's your name?
Daniel Montano.
Daniel Montano?
Declaration of Independence, something like that.
You see most of my stuff
In that,
usually
it
on
said
KUNF.
that we
A lot
have
of my stuff.
unalienable God-given rights. Our rights come from God. Our privileges come from government.
Okay, I'm going to bring that down for just a second.
He also said
There was
a tyrannical government.
Okay. Here we go.
Feel what just happened by our governor has aggrieved you and gone against your rights as New Mexican citizens.
They're going to have a dissenter come up and speak.
I want you to look it up yourself, or you can find it on nmbadbuilds.com.
So I just want to say, yeah, they're going to have a dissenter come up and speak. And so here we are at a rally where you literally are disagreeing with dozens, if not hundreds, of armed people you're brave enough to get up and speak, you know, regardless of any disagreements we may have, I think you're frankly wrong. I do appreciate that you're willing to have the cojones to come out, have the conversation, and not be afraid of the media's narrative that anyone carrying a gun is scary, you know.
It is Article 4A. Article 4A. Keep it nice. Keep it nice. So, hey, my friend with the mask, come up here. Come up here. Get your butt up here. Okay, so before we have our friend talk, let's talk about Article 4A. Article 4A of the New Mexican Bill of Citizens' Rights allows anybody who is aggrieved, which you all are right now.
So this is the fun. This one's funny.
So
what he's about to say.
You individually have a right as an aggrieved New Mexican citizen to be compensated up to $2 million.
You know nobody's going to see any kind of money like that.
Come up here. Come on. This is America. We have free speech, right, everybody? Orion Hopkins. And what's your main point?
I can't understand you.
See, now they're telling him to take the mask off.
Is there anything else to tell these people?
Show your face!
How many people see my face?
And it appears he's filming also. He took his mask off. He took his mask and now he's dancing. Like he knew the mask was bullshit the whole time.
But I already tested negative, but I was sick all week, so I didn't want to get you sick.
Don't worry.
A lot of people don't have as strong of an immune system, so once she works at UNMH, and it's hard when people have a compromised immune system. So we just got to look at
compromised immune system.
More of you have a gun because we still have school violence, and people are dying. So I'm just wondering what the solution is because we still have school shootings. If we still have school shootings, how is this not working?
Must school shootings. Must school shootings.
Allow me to answer those points. Okay. So my friend here thinks that making schools gun zones.
What do I teach my kid about getting shot? That it's fucking rare. That just because the media and the news will glorify it every time it happens, it's fucking rare.
Okay, because we're trying to have a discussion with our friend here. Okay, so in many other countries, what you have are teachers that are actually trained. They're usually ex-military. They've gone through an extensive.
There we go.
And they end gun violence.
Have trained staff who can respond with weapons.
When people know that schools are a soft target zone, they will do whatever they feel like they want to do. When they know that a third or a tenth of the teachers could end their whole devious rotten program, they won't go there. They'll try a softer target. So that's how we keep our kids, right? Okay.
So So you're saying I should have all of the teachers in my children's school in Monte Vista get, no, okay, wait, what is it?
I didn't say that. What I said is that when you have ex-military or you have extensive training, then you are qualified to take out an
Again, he goes to the every teacher. He goes to the absolute. It's got to be all one way or all another. We can't just take baby steps.
Learn how to use a gun!
And yet it's the far leftists who use incrementalism to seize power.
I feel safe! My specifics were very simple. I am ex-Air Force. I'm a marksman. I could take out a bad guy from 60 feet.
Free armed teachers in every school for $25 million a year.
That are trained as ex-military or ex-police. They will do the job to protect the innocent.
Unless they're in Uvalde, Texas. I mean, that's the sad part about that. Jeez. Cheers to Sangland86 in the chat. 10% is all. He must be a math teacher. I mean, even if he's being semi-genuine, again, it's this idea that any rational debate people are having, we can't find middle ground if we're going to these extremes. Anyway, cheers, Sanglet. You know, it has to be all one way or all one other way. We can't. And this argument comes up all the time too. Well, I don't want to force teachers to be armed. Well, nobody wants to force Mrs. Collins, who's a 24-year-old woman, you know, liberal woman who's never been to a gun range. Here, no, you have to defend these kids. You know, here's your bullets. You know, nobody's talking about forcing teachers to do this. What we're talking about is removing the gun-free zone requirement of elementary schools and middle schools and especially high schools. This idea that they're gun-free zones is what makes them a soft target, like the gentleman just said. It's the idea that an armed parent, an armed security guard, a cop, or yes, a gym teacher, a science teacher, or maybe even the 24-year-old Mrs. Collins can go to a gun range and become interested in sharpshooting and marksmanship and self-defense and all of the wonderful things about gun culture, for lack of a better term, and learn how to safely carry, operate, and respond with a weapon. So it could be a choice. Not just a choice, but if you don't have teachers who are willing to make that choice, if you don't have teachers who are willing to step up and carry a weapon and protect the children, then at the very least we could have armed security or police responding within the school instead of like a Uvalde, like I just brought up, you know, sitting outside the school and sitting in the hallway for nearly 2 hours while a deadly threat is taking out teachers and children. You know, we frankly, we get into this conversation and a lot of people want to talk about mental health. A lot of people want to talk about constitutional rights. Ultimately, it's about the right to self-defense and the right to be a hero. If someone is restraining you from protecting children, they're a tyrant. If someone, like the governor of New Mexico, wants to issue an order saying you don't have the right to protect yourself, they are a tyrant. And we've coddled tyrants for far too long in this country. And that's why I appreciate those two brave New Mexico state representatives who want to issue articles of impeachment for Governor Grisham. And I've given a speech before about, the boy who cried wolf type politics, and the idea that impeachment or bringing people up on charges of insurrection, these are things that shouldn't be dealt with lightly in the political arena, because when we deal with them lightly, then we get discredited. And then when it is time to use them in a very legitimate fashion, when it is time to point those fingers, to make those judgments, and kick those politicians out, and potentially even prosecute them and punish them with several years in prison or maybe even death, then we don't want to lose the legitimacy of the tools by which we seek law and order. For example, there was this whole debate on Adam Krigler's show on Monday, between Adam Krigler and Flawdzilla. And I'm gonna try to make this brief because we're down to the last 5 minutes of the show. But essentially, Adam Krigler was talking about a lot of conservatives replying to these left-wing protesters that were occupying Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's office. And these conservatives were commenting on it saying, well, by your rules, this is insurrection. You deserve 30 years. And it's like, okay, well, because the Biden administration and the corrupt prosecutions going on right now in Washington, D.C., Adam Krigler's opinion was, those were illegitimate tactics. And if conservatives adopt those tactics as some sort of revenge against their enemy, then we legitimize those tactics. We legitimize political witch hunts. And we have to be careful not to do that. And Flawdzilla disagreed with him and essentially said, no, they've determined the rules of the war, and if we don't adapt them, then they're going to run right over us. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think I agree more with Adam Krigler on this, is you have to be careful with which weapons you use to fight these kind of battles. And as of today, Speaker McCarthy has issued a directive of investigation for impeachment on Joe Biden and his dealings with his business Hunter Biden's business dealings, and whether or not Joe Biden is involved, which I think has been pretty close to solid proven, even though the mainstream media and Democrats say there's no link. I think we've seen links and emails and etc. And so now here we have impeachment on the table for the current president. The last president was impeached twice. The two presidents before that were not impeached because it was considered politically uncouth to consider impeachment after what had happened to Bill Clinton, because again, for most Americans, that was seen as being impeached over a blowjob, not being impeached over lying to Congress. So the idea of impeachment was a pretty hot topic up until they wanted to remove Donald J. Trump from office. And so now here we are, political witch hunt after political witch hunt. We have the mainstream media definitely trying to call these things political witch hunts while ignoring when the Democrats are doing the same thing tenfold worse. So, what do I think the answer is? I think the answer is be precise. Be precise in saying what exactly they are doing that is highly illegal. What exactly they are doing that is high crimes and treason. and strike with precision. Get only the people you need to get out of power. A lot of people are criticizing McCarthy, saying, what are you doing? If you impeach Biden, then we'll have President Harris. We can't do that. Again, I say, if you want the rule of law to exist, then you must enforce the rule of law, regardless of what the consequences may be. And besides, what a better way to tell a President Kamala Harris she's on thin fucking ice than to snatch the man above her and hold him accountable for his wrongdoings. Anyway, so that's the show for today. Once again, cheers to everybody who showed up. Thanks for stopping by Mike Likes Tacos and Sanglint 86. As I mentioned earlier, my next show will be somewhere in Nashville. I reserve the right to not stream in Nashville. I try to fulfill my promises, but this is going to be like a 70% sure. I'm 70% sure that I will find a way to stream from Nashville somewhere near the 3rd and Carson Tavern, which is where Nick Recato will be holding his meetup event on Saturday. I'm probably going to go live a little earlier than my normal time because that's when my normal time, 6 p.m. Central, is when Nick Recata's event begins. I'm going to try to finish up before that kicks off. I'm going to try to see if I can't coax anyone into coming on with me, just kind of as a saying hello. I'm not sure what the topics will be. I'm sure something crazy might happen between now and then. I'm going to try to keep my nose to the grindstone and be prepared to stream from the event however I can. But, sometimes there's just unknowns in the universe, and especially I've never been to this place. I've never even been to the state of Tennessee. So I reserve the right to say, hey, yeah, shit happened. It's not kosher enough for me to stream. So I may wind up having to cancel. If you want to know when I'm going to be streaming, it is very important that you follow me on the social media links down in the description of this video. It's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. I will announce there when I'm going to go live. It's probably going to be a YouTube only stream unless I can figure out how to make this StreamYard stuff happen through mobile. But yeah, that's that. So if anyone watching this video could do me a favor and click that like button. And if you haven't yet, follow me on whatever platform this is. Click subscribe on YouTube or follow button here on Rumble. And share this off platform if you can. Throw it in your Twitter, throw it in your Facebook group, your weird libertarian groups on Facebook or Twitter. Please share me around, because the only way I could ever grow this channel to where it could start sustaining itself and not draining my bank account is if we work together and try to get the word out. So I would appreciate if you'd help me out just a little bit on those few little things. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for eyeballs, folks. We can get this big enough to where Rumble and YouTube will monetize it, and that'll be good enough for me. And so, yeah, I will catch you next time on Miles Culture Plate. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. Thanks a lot for coming. See you next time on Miles Culture Plate. Peace.